Now, if you look at the table, now for example, I want to cross check as I'm getting the correct number of record or not. So if I go to the EKQ, if I click on display option, so if you want to see the result, go with the table content. Now here, see, here if I click on table content, I'm not getting the result directly. Instead, in middle, I'm getting one more screen. That screen we call as a selection screen. And the purpose of this selection screen is to filter the data based on given input. Now he's asking you, do you want to filter the data either based on order number, company code, document type, so and so. These are the different. Even you can filter the data based on vendor also. No, you are saying that no, I want to see all the results. I don't want to filter. You can first check the number of entries. Number of entries. Can you see we do have 18,797 entry. Now if I click on execute, now it is asking you number of maximum hit. I'm just removing. Now you'll get all 18,000 somewhat 97, 797 record we do have. You're getting all entry. But if you want, you can filter also. Suppose I want to filter the data based on vendor. I want to see the data between 1000 to 1010 only. Only for these 10 customer, I want the results. Now if I click on execute, now there are 2045 order which belongs to the vendor between 1000 to 1010. But here, the program which I have created, here we don't have any options. If I click on execute, I'm directly getting the output. Now you can ask me, here also I want to filter the data maybe based on vendor, maybe based on country, maybe the document number, maybe the date, maybe the Z payment term. I also want to filter the data based on the input. How to do? It means you also need to create the selection screen for your program. For standard database table, there is a standard selection screen given by the SAP, but in certain situation, not in certain, but most of the time, whatever the program you are creating, for that program, we must need to create the selection screen to filter the data. Now, how to create? For that, SAP has provided the concept called selection screen. Now, what is selection screen? It is an input screen. Input screen to the program or table to filter the data based on given input. In real time, of course, you need to filter the data based on given input. But the only thing is that for the standard table case, or even though if you create the custom table, in that situation, you do have the selection screen by default. You will get the selection screen by default by the system itself. But whenever you create any program, you need to create your own custom selection screen based on your requirement. Between the user and the output, one new screen will be introduced in between. That screen is nothing but your selection screen, where you are going to provide the data to filter the data based on given input. What is the syntax behind this? To create the selection screen, the syntax is selection screen begin of block. You know, whenever we create any programming structure, it may be work area, it may be internal table, it may be structure. Of course, you have given the begin of. So every programming structure in SAP must be begin with begin of. Begin of. So here we are creating the block. And you can have any number of block. So that block can be differentiated by using any name. You should create a block with some certain name. You know, if you create the structure, you are going to propose a name. If you are creating the work area, you are going to propose a name. Similarly, whenever we design the block, we also propose the name for that. Begin of block. with frame title. Frame title. We are going to propose text element name. We will discuss what exactly the meaning of that. And in between, you are going to have the input field. The same way we are going to selection screen, end of block. See, for everything you should have some start point and the end point. That is a part of begin of and the end of block name. Okay, so this is the syntax behind the selection screen. So we are going to create the selection screen. The start point will be the begin of, end point will be the end of. The block which you are creating, we are going to differentiate those block by proposing the name. The meaning of this with frame title. Now what system will do between the user and the output, it will introduce one new screen. Between the user and the output, it will introduce a new screen. This is something like a block. This is what your block. But you can have the multiple block in real time. And to differentiate those block, we supposed to propose the title. To differentiate the blocks, we are going to provide the title to the block. Now, what title need to be provided? Any title you can provide, and that title will be provided by creating the variable. It is something like variable, and that variable name always start with text hyphen. That's the reason that's variable we can call as a text element. See, if you want to provide any title related to that frame, can you see with frame title, the title related to that frame, the title will be provided in this variable, and that variable we can call as a text element. Why? Because the text element always name start with text hyphen followed by any 3-digit alphanumeric number or alphabet or numeric. Okay. Similarly, selection screen end of block. Between the user and the output list, it will introduce one screen, a block, and that block contains a set of input field. Now, if you look at this selection screen of table, can you see this outer frame? If you observe, you can see the outer frame. If you observe, you can see the outer frame. That outer frame is a part of block only. If you see, there is an outer frame. That outer frame is a part of block only. Now, in that block, you do have the set of fields. Eblin, Bookers, BSTYP, BSART, so and so. And with two input field. A field with two input values so that user can pass the data in range. Some inputs are two input values so that user can pass the data in range. Can you see this two option? It means it will be from to. He can enter the data in range from and to. And some input are with the single values. So you can define the field with two values or single values also. If it is two values, so data can be entered in range. If it is a single values, you do have the options to pass only single values. Now, how to create that two input values or the single input values? Then we need to go with the select option. Select option. It will be used to create input field in selection screen with two input values. with two input values to pass the data in range. Range in the sense to, from and to. What is the syntax behind this? Actually, this select option need to be right between selection screen begin and the end. Between these, you need to write the select option so that it will create the input field in this block. What will be the syntax? Select hyphen options, select option field name, for table name hyphen field name. This is the syntax. Now, for example, now I want to filter the data based on vendor, vendor. But whatever the name you are proposing, that name should be 8 character long. Means in the selection screen, whatever the input field you are creating, it doesn't mean that you should take as a field name. No, you can propose with any name also. But whatever the name you are proposing, that name should be only 8 character long. The length of that field should be the only 8 character long. System will not allow more than that. The length of the field should be 8 character long. System will not allow the longer than this. If you're trying to do so, you'll get the error. Now, for example, so whenever we create the field with the selection screen with the select option, always we propose the field name starting with s underscore to represent it as a select option. We always propose the field name as, it is not a mandatory, but we must always propose a field name starting with s. S stands for select option, followed by the field name. Now I want to filter the data based on vendor, and what is the field name for the vendor? LIFNR. It means S underscore LIFNR. Directly you can take it as a listener also. But suppose you are the original developer and someone other developer is going with the code which you have developed. Now suppose he come across with this listener, he might be confused, like it may be a single field also. But exactly how to be sure, like either it's a variable or the selection screen select option field. If it is s underscore, easily understood, it is a selection screen select option field. Now, whenever you are going to declare the field, we need to provide the data type and the length. And if it is standard field, if you are using the standard field reference, then instead of providing the data type length explicitly, we should refer it to the database. As we seen in the last example, we have referred it to the data element. I was creating the field as a listener, but instead of providing the data type and the length, I have referred it to the data element. Now, whatever the property that data element is holding, that entire property will be transferred. But to assign it to the data element, we should use the keyword as a reference called type. But here, the reference we must use as a for. If you are using it as a for, then it is not possible to refer it to the data element. If you are using the for keyword, it is not possible to refer or give the reference to the data element. Instead of giving it to the reference to the data element, we give the reference to the database table directly. We are creating the field called s underscore listener. This s underscore listener should hold the property of the field called listener, which is available in a table called LFA1. In that LFA1 table, whatever the property you have defined against the listener field, that complete property will be transferred to your field called s underscore listener. This is how. You would have referred to the data element also, but for the data element, here we need to use a keyword called type. But for the select option, the standard syntax is for. With the help of for, you cannot refer to the data element. That is why. So with this, what will happen? it will create a input field in a selection screen, something like this, s underscore listener, with the two input values, so that user can enter the data in a range, something like this. Likewise, you can create any number of field. Suppose I want to create another field. So you no need to write select option one more time. Just provide semicolon separated by comma my next field, s underscore EBELN for. I'm referring to the standard table called EKQ Eblin. EKQ hyphen Eblin. So there is no any space between the table name hyphen field name. It is continuous. So with this, what will happen? It will create a input field in your selection screen, something like this. Suppose you need one more called s underscore AEDAT for the date, and that too in range. So you can create something like this, s underscore AEDAT for EKQ AEDAT, comma, lastly full stop, ending with full stop. Right? Now, for example, if you look at the screen level, so that must be created before the select. You can create it anywhere, but I would suggest before they declare work area in the structure and after the table, in between, you should create a selection screen. Selection screen, begin of block. Like as I told you that you can create the multiple block as well, and to differentiate those block, you can provide any name. You can provide anything. So I'm proposing it as B1 with frame title text hyphen 000. Selection screen is going to be end of block B1. Simply providing the selection screen begin of block, end of block is not going to help you out. Okay, if I activate this one, if I click on execute, it will work as same earlier. But you must require some input field within the selection screen block, begin and the end. Then only you can find the new extra screen before the output. And that is a part of I'm creating as select options. S underscore listener for LFM listener. S underscore Eblin for S underscore ADAT for. You can ask me, I don't want to go with S underscore. That's fine. You can go with like this also. But the problem is how you are going to differentiate this listener and this listener, right? Not for, so you are the developer and you understood the logic. You are developing the logic. You can control by your own. But someone else is referring to your program. How he will differentiate? So this is how. So whenever we are creating a selection screen input field, we must go like this. Why S underscore only? Why something else not? Because of select. S stands for select options. Now activate. Now if I click on execute, so before the output, you will get this input field. This is a part of your selection screen. Now if you observe, you can find one, this one like this outer frame. That is a part of box. You can have the multiple blocks also. Now within that, I do have the input field called listener, Eblin, and the ADAT. That name should not be longer than 8 character. Now you can count what is the number of character. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now user is saying, what is this listener? I don't I don't want this in this technical name. This name stands for vendor number. Now user is saying that I want the proper label. Are we going to write vendor number something like this? That's okay, you can write it down. But system will not allow you to activate this one. You will get the error. Activation, activate despite error or problem detected. If you click on activate, it will bypass that error, it will activate. But still your program is not in active state. Go with the edit mode. Here you can see the select option name, vendor underscore name here can be up to 8 character. So system will not allow you to create any input field longer than 8 character. Then how to manage user? He is not agree with the field name which you are creating. He want the proper description. That we will see the later. Now here I'm providing the input and I'm expecting the data should be filtered based on my given input. If I click on execute, see, do you think your data is getting filtered out? No. Simply creating the input field or the selection screen input field is not enough. Simply creating a selection screen with the input field is not enough. Now, after creating a selection screen with the input field, user is going to pass the input. Now, what you need to do as a developer, whatever the input we are receiving, this input we need to be compared while fetching the data from the database. It means somewhere we need to filter the data based on the given input. And that too specially we need to write while fetching the data from the database. That is what our where condition. I need to say that where. Now saying that while fetching the data from the database, please filter the data. He's asking based on what you want to filter the data. I'm saying that I want to filter the data based on listener. Now he's saying that where is input? So I'm saying that my input is in this field. My input is in this field called s underscore listener. But still you'll get the error. Why? Because here it's a inner join. Listener is available in LFN also, listener is available in EKQ. He will ask you exactly which table, which listener you want to compare. See, whenever you are working with the inner join, you will get one of the error. What's that error? Here you can see. The column name listener is ambiguous. This especially when you come across with this, that is only during the inner join case. It means system is having the confusion. Here you're saying that based on the selection screen input, that input is available in this field, and based on this input, I want to filter the data vendor. Now system is saying you do have the access to both the table LFN and the EKQ, and in both the table you do have the listener. Exactly which listener you want to get compared. So I'm saying please get compared with this LFN listener. Now you will not get the error. If I click on execute, if I provide the input, this is my data. Now you do have the result which is related to 1000. If I scroll down, see it is related to 1001. If I scroll down, likewise you'll get 1005 as well, 6 and the 10. This is how. This is how. Similarly, you are saying that I want to filter the data based on Eblin or maybe AEDAT. Then suppose I'm passing the date. I can say 01/01/1997 to 31/12/1997. I want to filter the data. Do you think your data is getting filtered out? No, right? So this input needs to be compared while fetching the data. Again, and now this time I want to compare the ADAT in S underscore ADAT. Now if I click on activate, now see this time I have not specified the table name like the way I have proposed it for the listener. I'm not proposing it for the ADAT, and system has not raised any error message. Just he is allowed to activate me. Why? Because there is no any confusion. ADAT is only available in EKQ. However, it will get compared with the EKQ. If the same field available during the both the table, then it will be an issue. Now your data will be get filtered out. Along with the vendor, the data will be get filtered out. You don't have any record in this range. So 31, I will take 1998. Yes, for the 98 we do have. Can you see? Till here, the order belongs to 1000. Now again from here, the order belongs to 1001. If I scroll down, now from here you can see 1002, 1003, right? Now again I want to filter based on the this number. I want to filter based on 5100 to 5199. Sorry. Do you think your data is getting filtered out? No. You need to pass that condition in a here. And Evelyn in S underscore Evelyn. Likewise, activate and execute. 1000 to 1010. So this date I'm passing and like this. Now your data is getting filtered out. See, 1000, 1001, 1002, 3, 5, 10. Almost you're getting all data. This is how you can filter the data. Now you can ask me, what is this logic behind this and the in? Why you are using in only? Why not something else? So that is a part of select option internal table. See, whenever we create a selection screen with the input field using select option, system internally create an internal table with the concept occur 0, and that internal table contains 4 fields. Here I can say whenever we create an input field with select option, so it should be select options, system internally it will create an internal table with 4 fields using old syntax, using I can say occurs, using old concept I can say that is occurs 0. System will create an internal table with the 4 fields. So here system will create an internal table. That internal table contains 4 fields, and that internal table will be created by using occur 0. It means how many input fields are there in a selection screen? 3. You do have 3 input field. Sign, option, low, and the high. Okay, these are the four fields. This is for S underscore listener because you do have three input field in a selection screen. This is for Eblin and this is for ADAT. Right? Now the selection screen, in the selection screen I'm passing, let's assume you're passing only for the S underscore listener. Here I have passed the lower value 1000, higher value I have passed 1010. So system internally will create a internal table for all four, but only first internal table will be filled. Remaining will be empty because we have passed the input only in listener, not in the ADAT or the Eblin. So it will be fill only Eblin and the ADAT only when if you pass the input in a selection screen, right? So now sign will be filled with I, option will be filled with the BT, the lower value it will be filled as 1000, higher value it will fill as 1010. So whenever we create a selection screen with the select option, this will be the part of lower value and this will be the part of higher value, low and high, the lower value and the higher value. So the low will be filled with as 1000, high will be filled with as with the 1010. So whenever we create a selection screen with the select option, internally system will create an internal table with the four fields. Now you let me know whatever the input you're passing between, like I have passed as 1000 to 1010. Do you want to get the result between these only or apart from these? Now suppose if I say equals to 1000 and not equals to 1000, what does it mean? The first indicates I want to get the result which is 1000. The second indicates I want the result which is apart from 1010. Apart from. That is a part of sign, we can say. The input which you have entered, you want to get the data between these or excluding these. So that is the stands for sign. The data which has entered that can be included or excluded. So there are two options. I means included, E stands for excluded. Means the input which you have passed, you want to get the data between those or apart from those. So by default, it will be maintained as I, lower value will be 1000, higher value will be 1010. So when we zero, occur zero means it will have only single row. Now option stands for relational operator between the number. Option stands for relational operator between the number. Relational operator between the number. Now what are the relation operators? Equals to. So first I go with the character representation, equals to, not equals to, between, not between, greater than, less than, greater than, equals to, less than, equals to. And the symbolic representation of these are equals to. This is for not equals to. For between, not between, we don't have any symbolic representation. This is for greater than, less than, greater than, equals to, less than, equals to. Now you do let me know one of the relation operator. You do have the options to enter only one value. Now you do let me know one of the relational operator which can fit for both the values. We should not say that greater than 1000 or less than 1010. In that situation, you need to add two relational operators. Not like that. Any one of the relational operators so that it can fit for both the values. So between is a default. So I can say between, nothing but BT is a default relational operator between the number. So BT. So when you have enter both the value lower and higher, the default relational operator is between. Now let's assume you have entered only single value. Now here what I'm doing in the ADAT, I'm entering only single value. Or you can consider in the ABLIN, I'm entering only one value, 4100. In that situation, it will be filled with I equals to 400, 4100. If you fill both the value, then it will be between. If you fill single value, then it will be equals to. But you can choose by default, this information will be filled. But you can consider any like either included, excluded. You can choose your own relational operator, so you can change it anytime. But by default, this option will be filled. Now I will come to the point why we are writing as in. Like while filtering the data, now while fetching the data from the database, you need to filter the data. And whenever we create the select option, it is creating the internal table in the background. But when filtering the data against this internal table, you need to consider all four columns. Am I right? You need to consider all four columns. See, suppose, of course, you daily get up and you just get ready for your office, and you do have your own decks. It having some own setup as a part of office. You do have laptop, the laptop charger, the mobile charger. You do have mobile, somewhat like your keys, two-wheeler, four-wheeler. You do have wallet, everything, and you suddenly get ready and you're just leaving for the day, and suddenly at the door you'll get to recall that, oh, I missed my wallet, I missed my key, I missed my something something. So suddenly you're going to call any of the family member and you're saying that, oh, I missed the things, please get it for me, because I have wear the shoes and it's again take me time to remove and get it. It's a lengthy job, so you can just call for the help. Now what you can say, please, I left my mobile, or I left my ID card, can you please get it for me? Now suddenly they will ask you where you left. You can say, you can just search in the table, in the desk, on the table. In the means you do have many steps. Among them you need to pick it up. You do have many steps. Among considering all, you need to pick up one of them. That is a part of in. That is a part of in. So in this internal table you do have four column. You need to consider all column. So we are letting the system to know that get inside, get in, and check all the combination and get the data for us. But once you are in, sometimes it is empty. If it is, first check it in. If it is empty, then of course you'll get all. So if you're not passing anything, then it will get all the data for you. Because I don't have any filter data to filter it out, then get all for you. See, if you're not passing anything in the selection screen as an input, then it will get all the data for you. That is a magic. If it is empty, then it will get all the data for you. Because we don't have nothing to filter it out, then get it all. If you're providing the data, then it will get filtered out. Right? Now here we can see, if I place the breakpoint over here, if I click on execute, passing 1000, it is something like 97 to 98. It is something like, okay, okay. So if I see in the listener, I'm passing only single value. In the Eblin, I'm passing the value in range, but in the date, I'm passing anything. I'm not passing. I want to show you all the scenario. Okay. If I click on execute, now here you can see, whenever we create a selection screen with the select option, internally system will create an internal table with the four fields. This is for the listener, and that internal table will be created with the old concept called occur 0. This is header line, this is body. Header line, body. Header line, body. First, I will go with the listener, s underscore listener. See, I have entered single value. It will be field sign as I, option equals to lower value. If I go with the Eblin, I have entered both lower and the higher value. So sign will be I, option will be BT, low and the high. And I have not passed anything in the AEDAT. Sign option low, high, empty. But if I click on execute, this is the output. Means it will get only those data which you have passed as a input, and based on that input, it will get filter the data and bring the data to IT final. If I do F6, you can see in the IT underscore final, you do have only 3 entry as per your given input. Any doubt with this? Similarly, the way we have created the input field with the 2 input values so that you can pass the data in range. Similarly, you can also create the input field with the single value also. And that is a part of parameters. Parameters. It will be used to create a input field with the single values. It will be create an input field, single values, single value. And there is another purpose of this parameter is it will also use to create radio button and checkbox as well. So you can create the radio button and the checkbox as well in your selection screen. If you want to create a single input field, the radio button and the checkbox, then you should go with the parameters. Now, if I go with the syntax for this, parameters. So if it is a parameter, then it's a part of parameter field name. So if it is a parameter, then we go with the type. If it is select option, we go with the for. Then we are going to refer to the table name. If you want, you can refer to the data element also directly. If it is a type, then you can directly refer it to the data element also. Otherwise, you can refer it to the table name hyphen field name. So similarly, you can create the radio button or the checkbox as well. In that situation, we can go with this and we should say, and again, any name should not be longer than 8 character. It should be only 8 character. Then a radio button name, if you want to have the radio button. But for the single radio button, there is no any meaning. Radio button always should have more than one. What is the purpose? What is the meaning of single radio button? No meaning. But single checkbox is having the meaning. If I select, what should happen? If I deselect, what should happen? Single checkbox will be having the meaning. But for single radio button, you don't have the meaning. So that's the reason we should always have multiple radio button. That is a part of more than one. Radio button group, group name. Next, radio button name, radio button group, group name. So radio button always should be having more than one. And more than one radio button, you can make a group and you can propose a group name. It could be anything. There is no any mandatory, there is no any predefined group name. You can propose any name like ABC, XYZ, anything. And to create the checkbox, I can say checkbox as a checkbox as, right? This is how. Now, suppose if I want to create any parameter field name, so for example, I want to filter the data based on maybe country, maybe Z term. Okay. So now here I can say, I will show you by creating another block. If you want, you can continue same block also. If you want, you can go with the another block also. Like selection screen, begin of block. This time I will take it as a B2 and ending with also B2. Okay. Now we'll go with the parameters. So parameter fill name. So select option, we go with S underscore parameter P underscore. Z term type EKQ Z term. Then I want to create the radio button R underscore radio button 1, radio button group, any group name ABC. I'm proposing as ABC. Similarly, second radio button group also belongs to the same group. There is no any meaning for single radio button, and system will not allow you to create the single radio button. You should have always more than one. I can say C underscore run as a checkbox. Pretty printer and activate. See, for creating a single input field, here you can see for the select option you do have two input values so that user can pass the data in range. For this P underscore Z term, you do have a single input value so that you can pass a single value. Two radio buttons RB1, RB2, one checkbox called C underscore run. Now, if what should happen if I select first one, what should happen if I select second radio button, and what should happen if I select this checkbox, if I deselect this checkbox. Okay. Now I'm passing the input something like 1000 to 1010 and the date. If I click on execute, so this is the thing. Now here almost we do have ZB01 only. We don't have any other options. Suppose if I go with 99, we do have ZB0. Okay, we do have many. ZB01. So almost all payment terms are ZB01 only. Here we do have different one. Can I say ZB03? And again, no, we do have ZB01 and the ZB03. Now what if I want to, now user is saying I want only ZB03 data. I want payment terms which is equal to ZB03. If I click on execute, see I'm getting all. But creating a input field in the selection screen is not enough. We need to pass this input field while fetching the data from the database. If you are comparing the input with the select option, then we should go with the in. But if you are comparing with the input with parameter field, then we should go with equals to, because it's a single value. So directly you're going to compare Z term and activate. If I click on execute, I'm passing 1000 to 1010. Now here I'm not passing anything. I'm not passing anything. Then it will consider the blank one. See, can you find any of the payment term? So what system is doing? He's getting all the order which is having the payment terms as blank. Means it is comparing the blank. That is the difference between the select option and the parameter. If you're not passing anything in the select option, it will be considered as all. But if you're not passing anything in the parameter, that will be considered as equals to space. Now if I provide ZB03, then it will get only those data which is having the value as ZB03. This is the magic. Okay. Now if I go with ZB01, it will get all the data which is having the value equals to ZB01. Now you are saying that I don't want ZB01. Apart from ZB01, whatever the data we do have, I want that one. So you can double click on this. Actually, we should get this kind of, I can say, relational operator. Can you see? Equals to, greater than equals to, less than equals to, greater than, less than, not equals to. Likewise, we should have this not equals to also, but we are not getting. We can place not equals to also. Now what system will do? If I go with ZB03, if I look for ZB02, we don't have any. But if I go with the ZB03, we do have. Now if I place my breakpoint over here, okay, if I click on execute, passing 1000 to 1010, I'm not passing anything in the Eblin, I'm not passing anything in the ADAT, but I'm passing ZB03 in the payment term. I'm selecting this R underscore RB on radio button, and I'm selecting this C underscore run as a checkbox. If I click on execute, now here we can see Eblin, ADAT, Listener. Thereafter, this is P underscore Z term C. It is a direct value. It will not create any internal table. During the parameter case, it's a state value. It will not create any internal table. RB1, RB2, C underscore run. Now, how the system will get to know that which radio button is selected, which checkbox is selected? See, whenever we select any radio button or the checkbox, in front of that, system will mark it as X. It means this RB1 radio button has selected. It means this C underscore N as a checkbox selected. It means this RB2 is not selected, blank. Whatever the radio button, whatever the checkbox you're selecting, in front of that it will mark as X. Now while filtering the data, while fetching the data from the database, we are filtering it out. We are filtering based on the Eblin, ADAT and the Listener plus the payment terms. So payment term, this is under P underscore Z term. If I do F6, it will get only those payment term which is equals to ZB03. See, we do have 5 entry. This is the results. So that's the reason. So here a note for you. Whenever user declare a select option, or I can say whenever user filter the data based on select option field, then you should use in the where condition of select statement of select statement. So we should use in the where condition of select statement during the select option. So similarly, whenever we use needs to filter the data based on parameter field name. Then he should use either this equals to, or he should use this equals to. Both is fine. In the where condition of select statement. In the where condition of select, either you should use this one or you should this one. Now the third important is, whenever user select, any radio button or checkbox, then internally it will mark as X X in the parameter variable. In what name you have defined that radio button or the variable, in front of that it will mark as X in the parameter variable. The parameter variable means, suppose you have defined the radio button in the name of R underscore RB1. Now suppose this radio button is selected, it will be marked as X, something like this. That does it mean. Any doubt with this?
This conference will now be recorded.
Now whatever the selection screen and input field which I have created or we have created for the requirement, these input fields.
This conference will now be recorded.
Now selection screen with the input field which we have created, that name is something like a technical S underscore Evelyn, S underscore Lifnar, S underscore ADAT. But user is not okay with this. He want the proper naming. Now what does it stands for? Actually, S underscore Lifnar is a vendor number. So user is asking, I want the proper label, vendor number. S underscore Evelyn, it's a purchase document number. User saying, I want the proper label, purchase in document number. How to do it? Like whenever we declare a selection screen with the select option, here we're supposed to say that the title or the label related to the block or any field which you have defined in that block. If you want to maintain the title related to the block which you have created, or if you want to maintain the label any field which you have defined in that block, the title will be maintained in the variable, and that variable we can call as a text element, because that variable name always start with text hyphen 3-digit alpha number or alphabets. It can be anything, and that label will be maintained by creating this text element. How to create? Just double click on this text hyphen 000. You'll get the message, the program text 000 does not exist. Do you want to create? Yes. See here you can see three tabs: text symbol, selection text, list heading. Now this text symbol is nothing but what? You have created the text element with the name text hyphen what number you have provided? 000. The same thing you will get it here. If you provided 001, you will get it as a 001, 002, so and so. If you want to provide the label related to the block, that label will be provided under text symbol. Suppose I need the block title as selection, something like input. You can provide anything, like I'm providing selection input. And if you want to provide the label for the field which you have defined in that block, you can go with the selection text. See, these are the fields which you have defined for the different block. For example, for the listener, what label you needed? These are the text field which you have created. But what label you needed, that you need to provide here. Now for this listener, I want as a vendor number. Now for this Eblin, what you needed? I need purchasing document number. Anything, it's up to you, your own wish. For date, I want to provide it as order date. Anything. For this Z term, I want to provide it as payment mode. Now this first radio button is a part of export. The second radio button, I want to provide it as import. And this one as a, I want to provide it as a anything. I want to provide it as a download, something like any label, and make sure that it should be active. Just save and activate. Now if I go back, how did I achieve? Just double click on this text hyphen triple zero. Under text symbol, you can provide the block label. Under selection text, you can provide the field label, which you have defined within that block. Come back, activate and execute. See, vendor number, purchasing document number, order date, payment mode, export, import, and the data. Internally in the program, it is referred as a technical name only. This is for the end user to see it as a text. But if you observe, for both the block, I have received the same title. For both the block, I have received the same title because for both the block, I have mentioned the text element as same text hyphen triple zero. If you want the different label, then you can go with the different number, like text hyphen triple zero, 001. Now again, if you need to create this one. Now see, if I click on activate, now for the second block, you don't find the label. It has removed because you have specified that the text hyphen 001, and for the 001, you don't have any label. So you need to create it. Double click on this, create object, yes. It will refer to the same. This is for the 000 and this is for 001. So I can say button. Okay, activate. Now earlier, whatever the label you have maintained, it is already there. Okay. So keep on, you can create the multiple blocks also. See, this is the result. Selection input, selection button. Hope it's clear.